Hello, hello.
Hello, Governor.
All righty. After a slight delay, we are back. Tonight's episode, the mighty AC/DC.
Amen.
Began 1973. You know, I was a little shocked at perusing their info, and they are 200 million albums sold worldwide. Can you believe that? 200 million.
Hell of a street team.
That's like Beatles, level.
Yeah.
I mean, that's way up there.
Yeah.
And I think certified, like when they have to have everything, was like 100 and almost 90, but they say it's like 2. So that's just crazy.
And all of those records are the same damn record.
Yeah, I get your point.
That's the number one thing about them that everybody loves, is the fact that they never ever chased a trend.
Oh no.
We are AC/DC, and you will either like it or not.
Yep. I mean, it changed a little bit from the early days. There were, the rawness, maybe
Right.
a little more punkish type, which Angus absolutely hated anybody mentioning punk in
Right.
the same. But, they, I think, considered themselves, and a lot of people called them that, with just a bar, just a rock and roll bar band, a pub band.
Yep.
And I think that's pretty good definition.
I was sold.
Yeah. So, I think we'll start up, and then maybe we'll talk about something. Here we go. You know, that's obviously, of course, what they called back then pantomiming. Now I think lip sync, but that's unusual. I noticed they had some open mics there. You could hear the crowd.
Yeah.
And you can hear the fog machines when the foggers go off, and you can hear his voice and stuff, in in the playback.
Well, I don't know if you know, but back in those days, they were required to come in early and re-record the song. So that version you just heard was not the original.
Was rehearsal?
Version. Well, I mean, I think they went to a proper studio and re-recorded the song.
Oh, okay. I thought they would just come in and do rehearsal and
I read
record
that. I read that in, I think it was KK Downing's book. That and the reason being is that way the TV station had they had the rights to the songs. Yeah.
That was done in England or in the UK, in Australia. I can't remember. I meant to look it up, but I don't.
That was probably Top of the Pops.
Yeah. Anyway, I just thought because that's not usual. Usually the mics are all dead, but I could tell that you could hear the room in the playback. So his mic was hot sometime, and then you could hear the foggers when they went off, and you could hear the crowd clap.
Yeah.
So there was some room mics or whatever, which is not normal. But anyway,
that's one of my favorite Angus Young solos too. It's short, but it's
a good one.
It's so tasty.
I noticed something else working the show up is that song. It's not like I hadn't heard it, a bazillion times, but it has a different effect watching the video versus just listening to it.
Agreed.
Listening to it, it was like, oh yeah, I know this song. It's heard it a zillion times, whatever. It's good. I'm glad I used it in the show because I sent you the playlist.
Right.
And today I was listening to it a little bit driving, and but watching the video, it's like 5 times better.
Oh yeah.
And even though it's weird, so that's one of the reasons I think too the podcast here is not the same listening to it.
Right.
As watching these videos, watching this stuff. All right, let's move on to the next one unless you have something to interject.
No, let's do this.
All right.
Won't tell you a story about a woman I know. I come loving. The show. She ain't exactly pretty, ain't exactly small. 4-2-3-9-56. You can say she got it all. Scared.
I think they were having a little fun there toward the end.
I mean, come on, that song is so hot.
Yeah,
It's so hot.
I think they were sort of playing with the crew, with the sync, and but what do they call it? Like taking a piss or whatever.
Yeah, taking the piss.
Alrighty. I was trying to, I was reading up on them, of course, of some of the changes over the years, and some of the in-house battles. Various substance abuse problems.
Really?
Yeah, and getting in fights and getting fired and coming back later and all this other stuff. There's some interesting stuff. I don't remember seeing any good documentary on the band, like, from the very beginning and up. Is there one out there that I just missed?
I'm sure that there's something that's been put together, but AC/DC is a lot like Kiss. A lot like Kiss, that they are very guarded of the narrative. And because there's a lot of folks out there that's got some nasty things to say about the Young Brothers, but it's all roses if you ask them.
Okay.
I tell you that a whole lot of roses off of Let There Be Rock. And I think that was one of the things that truly solidified my love of this band. The fact that, they recorded their first 2 albums in Australia, TNT and High Voltage. And then the worldwide release, they kind of combined those 2 into High Voltage. And then the next record they did, and they turned into the record company, was Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. And the label head listened to it, and they were like, "We're not releasing this. That is garbage. There is not a redeeming quality in anything on this album. No." So they went back in and recorded Let There Be Rock. Only used 1 song.
Yeah. And I always think it's confusing, too, because of the way they did, like the early Aussie-only releases, and then they would use the same titles or whatever. It was just really...
Right.
I remember buying them at the time and being confused. This was before they were big or anything.
Right.
And I'm going, what is this? There's some songs on here, and then they're the same songs, but they're different. And I don't know. It was...
I thought TNT, the first time I saw it, I thought it was a bootleg. I thought it was like one of those... Russian knockoffs, and then I was like, these songs aren't on TNT.
Right.
What the hell?
Yeah, it was a weird, convoluted type setup, I think. All right, you ready to move on to the next one? Because I know it's going to be a long show tonight.
Rock it.
He got himself a gun.
That's I mean, a really simple riff like a lot of stuff, but I just always loved that little walk.
Oh.
That riff has got a cool walk to it.
That was the perfect song to represent Power Age.
Yeah.
Because number one, that's an underrated gem. That song, Smoke, is just awesome.
That version also was recorded in Nashville, I think, for a radio show. You heard him announce,
Right.
And but not a bad recording either.
No.
You could tell, you could hear the ambience in the headphones, of the.
But that was the first album that Cliff Williams played, and that song really shows him off too, because he did a lot of stuff there that he didn't typically do.
I like I wish, of course, as usual, I tweaked these a little bit from the originals, and I wish the bass sounded like that more.
Oh yeah,
I think I like that a lot. I like the way it sounded.
And it's criminal that Mark Evans did not get inducted into the Hall of Fame. They did.
I read that he was initially on the bill to be inducted, and then dropped for no explanation. So I wonder if the band jumped in. There's
possible.
It was like no reason given, but he was initially on the induction list.
Trouble with your high school head is giving you the blues. You want to graduate, but not instead. Here's what you gotta do. Pick up the phone, I'm all alone. Just call me anytime. Dial 3624368. I need a life of crime. Dirty deeds. The tears I'll start. Pick up the phone, I'm all alone. Just call me anytime. For me, I'll be happy to be your goddamn man. Dirty deeds, dirty cheek. Dirty deeds, dirty cheek. Dirty deeds, dirty cheek. Dirty deeds and the dirty deeds and the thunder cheek.
That was so good, we're going to hear it again. I noticed again there, his vocal mic was hot.
Oh yeah.
So but the backing tracks, I think were, so they had some hot mics. You could hear the girls. You could, obviously his main vocal mic and the backing vocal mics I could hear were real. I mean, they were hot. Some of them were, because you could sort of hear the difference in the voices and stuff. But they probably had the backing tracks just recorded.
And that was a hell of a tackle, wasn't it?
Boy, she
she absolutely plowed him.
Surprised him too.
Yeah, because he forgot the lyrics. It was hilarious.
Yeah,
and you saw Angus get hit first, real early. That was fun.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool video.
I think they probably got laid that.
Nah,
I'm pretty sure.
Nah, I don't think the girls liked him at all.
I think it was that leopard skin,
especially Bond. They just hated him. So all right, next up, here we go.
Sitting there, and there's ladders, and there's snakes. The ladders give snakes too. Rich man, poor man, beggar man, thief. Ain't got a hope in hell. That's my belief. Fingers for it. Diamond chair. And running. 'Cause I'm coming out. So spin that wheel. Drop that pop. Roll the dice.
Wow, the Midnight Special.
Gotta love it.
That it was such a cool show. Wouldn't it have been cool to be a crew, worked on the show all those years, all those people and bands that were on there? Wow.
They wouldn't have had to pay me.
Oh, that would have been an awesome job.
Oh, and that was such a great version of that song, too.
Yeah. I seem to have heard that tonight. Didn't you guys
They
dabble
did
in that a little bit tonight?
They just did that better than we did.
Yeah, a little bit maybe. Also think it's unusual. This is the second time I noticed that, nowadays a band like that would be, especially at that time, pretty much predominantly the demographic would be male.
Right.
Especially up front at the shows. And you noticed the stage was probably 80-90% female there, especially in front of Bon and all that. So that's sort of unusual too.
They were probably all work release.
Yeah. Alrighty. I saw you intently Googling or something. Did you have something you wanted to add, or was
No, I was answering messages.
Oh, okay. All right. Related to any of the funny things?
Well, that's what I was checking, because for all of you out there listening, Mr. Scott was stirring up crap earlier.
No.
Yeah, he was stirring up crap with one of my bands, and I saw that someone finally replied, the one we were expecting to reply, and he didn't. He ignored the whole situation like he normally does.
That's just terrible. All my hard work.
I know, dude. It's so bad when you have a joke that just goes nowhere.
Wah, wah. What is it? Let's see. What we got here? Nope. Where is it?
It's the blue one? No, it's definitely not the blue one.
I know I got a wah, wah.
That ain't it. There it is.
Yeah, it was somewhere in there after 47 button pushes. Okay, here we go. I think this is the next one. I got confused.
Thank you. This is a song which was inspired by none other than young boy here, Angus. This is called I'm a Problem Child. See me calling us to the side. Oh, baby,
think you had your headphones off, but Bond says at the beginning when he's introducing it, and it's a little hard for him to hear what he said, but listen again here.
Hey, this is a song which was inspired by none other than young boy here, Angus. This is called I'm a Problem Child.
Here, John Boy Haggis. That's what he sounds like he says, but I don't know who he was talking to, if he was talking about Malcolm or who he was talking about.
Well, he looked at Malcolm.
Yeah.
And Malcolm probably gave him a black eye for that one. He was funny that way.
Haggis. All righty. Let's move on. I think we're about to cross the threshold here. Yeah. You know, that when that album dropped, that changed everything for the Young Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, sonically and, you know, sales-wise and international fame and fortune, that probably still, you know, it's hard sometime to pick between the follow-up and that one, but I most of the time, that's my favorite album overall, but...
Well, that's the perfect song.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a perfect song for them.
It's pretty hard to beat it.
Ooh.
But we're going to add a few more, I think. Here we go.
Yeah. Who Let That Go then?
Yeah.
One of my all-time favorite songs.
Saw her over by the jukebox. I asked her what the going price was, and she told me to go to hell. I always thought that line was really cool.
It's awesome. Toss off, buddy, she's mine.
Yeah. All right, let's go. dun 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 dun. And I hear the next song.
Yeah. Man, I love that song.
Yeah, you know that song. Of course, AC/DC in general have with those progressive song intros, but that song sort of sparked that whole podcast episode about progressive song intros, and that song got left out of the show. But
what are you gonna do? You know?
Yeah, you know, things happen.
You know, I just have to say, because I think we're about to cross that threshold.
Yeah, we're about to cross it.
Bon Scott is an absolutely underrated lyricist. That guy could write a song.
Yeah,
And the lines in that song, "We're rising, falling like the sea. You're looking so good under me." I was like, I mean, it's bathroom wall poetry, but damn, it's good.
It's perfect.
It's so good.
Yeah, I really do. It's just a shame. I was just thinking, you know, I mean, you know, Brian did a great job. There's no doubt about it. And Bon apparently was a fan of his.
Oh yeah.
But what would become of the band? I mean, you know, because they had started working on Back in Black, and I read this and I had never remembered reading it before, but when they were working on pre-production, Bon was playing drums for the, you know, writing the songs.
Apparently, I'm the only person on the planet that doesn't play drums. I mean, damn.
I hear you.
I got to work on that.
That would have been I'd like to have been in that room though, you know, just to see what kind of drummer he was and how. I mean, he's got such he had such a cool way about him too. That sort of sly wink, you know, tongue in cheek about everything.
Oh yeah.
All right, man. We're coming up on an hour. We got a lot of ways to go here. So
let's do it.
It's just a rock and roll, yeah.
It's just a rock and roll.
That's all it is, dude.
Man, Cliff is another one too Phil that just is underrated, I think. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, in that stereotypical snare
Yeah.
crash that, that
Makes the song.
and it does, doesn't it?
I love that song, and I love that because of that.
Yeah, it's just got
That and Brian's voice.
Yeah.
Perfect singer for that song.
It is really.
And I love how he lights his cigarette right before the song. That's just, oh, hell yeah.
All righty, here we go. Moving on. You know, another thing I think's underrated in the band is the backing vocals.
Oh yeah,
They make
they changed so drastically when Mutt Lange.
Yes, definitely
in.
has his stamp on it, but it's just really a significant part of their sound.
Do you remember the first time you heard this song?
No, I don't think so. I take it you do?
Well, I mean, I remember I was such a huge AC/DC fan at that point, and I was used to Bond. And when I dropped a needle on this one, I was like, number one, who's this guy? But you could just tell from the very beginning of the song. Now, I was a little kid, but I was like, this sounds so dangerous. And this song is so unlike any other AC/DC song up to this point.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, the cadence and the groove type is different. Yeah.
The biggest thing that Mutt Lange did was he took their songs from being, repetitive and put different parts in the songs. Because like that whole solo section, completely unlike any AC/DC song.
Right.
And it was, and that became the template going forward. And it was awesome. I mean, this whole freaking album, there's a reason why it's everybody on the planet has 2 copies.
Second largest selling album in history.
Jesus. I mean, it's just such an awesome album. There's no filler tracks.
Right.
None. Zero.
Production is amazing. It just took Highway to Hell and tweaked it a little more.
Yeah.
I was thinking on Highway to Hell when we were listening to the first track off of that, you could really tell to me that Mutt, his influences, it was literally the perfect snare sound.
Oh yeah.
Perfect. It was like, but anyway, let's move on here because we got several more to go. the last one with Mr. Lang on.
Yep.
And that was their first number one album.
It deserved it.
Yeah, it's a good album. I think number 3 on the Triumphant, but wow, it's a big number 3. And I saw that tour, and I've seen a lot of loud bands, but I tell you what, that was one of the loudest, because those cannons that came up on the stage and those explosions, those charges, they hurt. They really did. It was insane. Did you get to see the tour? Were you still a little young?
I did not.
Yeah.
I was going to say, back in the day, the kids probably won't believe me when I say this, but when this album came out, ZYP, which is, garbage now, but back then, every Sunday night at 10 o'clock, they would play an album. They'd play the full album in its entirety, no commercials, except when they flipped aside. And I remember the night that they played this album, and I was, sitting in the dark, headphones on, should be asleep, got school tomorrow, but by God.
Did you have a cassette recorder or something over there?
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. And it was glorious. I was like, how could they follow up Back in Black? This is how. Yeah,
there's some good songs. I wish we had time to. I wanted to put more songs from all the albums, especially Back in Black and this album. But anyway, we're still.
And I love the cover too.
Oh yeah, it's great looking cover, great tour. It was, yeah. All right, well, here we go. Next up.
Six ships, some of the mouths of pleasure.
You know, I'm not sure on the quote here. I think it was Rick James that said cocaine's a hell of a drug. Yeah, that's a good example there to me. I mean, I
Yeah.
love that song. Obviously, I put it in here for a reason. Got a killer groove and everything, but that was played too fast. You know,
That was
probably
played at obscure
yeah.
levels.
I mean, it's out of the groove pocket there a good bit, and that says a lot because it's still held together quite well. But
I think Cliff makes that song.
yeah. Again, it's got his
the bass line is
Yeah.
so massive.
Yeah, it's a cool tune. I just like everything about it, honestly. All right, moving on.
To slip into something good. I see a young girl in the neighborhood, the way she moves. I must confess, I like to run my hands up and down
It might have been a little overused, but I really think it's humorous, the gag that they keep using with Angus, especially the first, when he's like floating across there, and then the rest. Did you notice like the high wire?
Oh yeah,
scene, and he got a little. He was like, "Whoa, wait a minute here. This is He got a little." That's obviously took quite of a jump between For Those About to Rock to Ball Breaker, which that one's off of. And, it's still AC/DC, and I think it was a return to their form, but you can tell the difference in the production. It's got a more modern production to it a little bit.
Guitars are cleaner, too.
Yeah, they are. And I noticed he went back, at least for the video, and got one of his old vintage SGs, with the hard tail, on it. All right. Well, this has been a good show, and we're at an hour and a half. I got one more song, and we're going to wrap it up. It's been fun. Now, here we go. That's the show.
That's the show.
That's the show.
That's the show.
Any comments? Any additional info you would like to put on us?
One of the things I was going to bring up just for the hell of it, when Brian Johnson auditioned for AC/DC, he was the only one he was the only one invited. Everybody else was just, you want to come and audition, great, So he comes in and they're all standing there and they're like, "What do you want to play?" He's like, "Well, mates, what about some Nutbush City Limits?"
Yeah.
And everybody just kind of started looking at each other, and he's like, "Oh, I've already blown it." And he's like, do you know it? And they're like, "Oh yeah, we know it. We're just bloody thankful you didn't ask for Smoke on the Water. We played that 8 times already."
Yeah. I was surprised at some of the auditions of various, like when they were looking for drummers. Simon Kirk auditioned. I thought, wow,
I just don't see it.
No.
I just don't see it. I mean, it's like
great drummer, but
like Neil Peart playing for AC/DC.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was odd.
We would have bloody had him in the band, but we couldn't find him. I don't know the drums.
Yeah, the stage set wouldn't have worked.
No.
Well, all right. It's been a fun show. Probably the longest show I think we've done. And it was hard to cut out songs
we had,
from
8 more songs?
Oh man,
But it's AC/DC. I mean, how do you not?
I could have used every song on Highway to Hell, Back in Black, For Those About to Rock, and then several more off of Ballbreaker, easy, and that's not even counting.
I would have included Let There Be Rock and Power Age.
Right. So there's so, it could have been an easy 2-parter, and I thought about doing a 2-parter, but I said no. And this topic sort of slipped up on me. It was like we were.
The God spoke.
Yeah, we were. I was like, and all these videos kept coming and things popping up, and I'm like, what is this? And I think I sent you a couple of little blurbs or something. You said, what are we doing? This is this next?
It started with the Obscure rehearsal when we were sitting around talking about AC/DC, and then next thing I know, you're sending me these little blurbs, and then you got all these songs popping up on you, and it was like, hey, how much more do you need to know? Yeah,
it was forced upon me, so to speak, and I'm going, you know what? Let's do it.
Let's do it. I mean, it's past due.
Yeah, and actually, I think, didn't Mike say that's what we're going to do or something? Because I heard him say something like, I told you so, or something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to say it. I like this one way better than the Jethro Tull one, but,
Well, that's not a surprise.
But yeah, love AC/DC. I love everything about AC/DC, and I still listen to them. Their new album, Power Up, is freaking great.
Yeah, I was fairly blown away, and I thought about throwing a couple songs in there too, but again, I couldn't see doing that and leaving stuff off of the classic albums too. So anyway,
it's the thing about AC/DC, when they're firing on all cylinders, you can't beat them. But there are some albums that,
yeah.
No.
Well, you notice I have a big break, and a lot of people, I'm sure, have a problem with this. I went from For Those About to Rock way on up to Ballbreaker, and there's a lot of albums in there that a lot of people probably said, hey, how come you didn't do it?
Last time I saw him was on the Heat Seeker tour, and a Heat Seeker is not anywhere near my favorite album. It's terrible, but that tour was awesome.
Right.
It was good.
Oh, I don't think AC/DC probably, I don't think they ever would put on a bad show. I mean, that's not, and their catalog is it's hard enough for me to come up with songs like we did tonight. Can you imagine having to come up with set lists for, that would be insane to me, trying to do that for the tours. So, well, alrighty. Let's see. I don't think we showed a picture of the tracking room tonight.
The devastation.
All empty. It does look sort of like it, doesn't it?
That camera was used earlier this evening.
No, this one wasn't. That was another one.
Oh, that was one. You used the secret one.
Yeah, that was the one on the wall over there with the pan and tilt built into it. That Yeah, that wasn't it. Let's see, is Jack? Oh, Jack's over there still sleeping.
Yeah, Jack's
He's out.
He says, I'm done.
It's been a long night. It's been a hard day's night.
Amen.
Well, okay, guys. Again, hope you enjoyed it. We have no idea what is coming next, but that makes it fun.
It's either going to be Porter Wagner.
I was thinking about that.
Or the Carpenters.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing a hee-haw special too. But
I'll be on board.
There'd be a lot of Roy Clark in there.
Damn right.
Yeah. All right, guys. It's been fun. We'll see you next time.